Okay, so this is just a really great art kit. This is my palm tree, and the palm branches are made with plaster and the coconuts are made with clay. This is a particle board that it's painted on, so it's just got a lot of great texture. And these are real Pensacola beach shells and plaster that holds it in. So it just has a really awesome feel about, a really nice tropical look about it. And this is the kit, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to start and how to do this kit. I'm going to open the kit first of all. Okay, so I am ready to paint. What I've done is I gathered some water and a paper plate. I've covered my clothes and my table that I'm painting on. Also got a pair of scissors. So once you have all that gathered, you're ready to go. And this is latex paint, so if you have any latex allergies, you don't want to touch the paint. So anyway, we're ready to get started. Okay, so I'm getting ready to start. So I'm using this picture as my photo reference so I can see what what it's supposed to look like. Make sure you read everything before you start painting. This is telling me to save a little bit of the plaster for the bottom. So when you do the plaster, make sure that you just save a little bit for make sure some left over. Okay, so you squeeze it back one of the corners like this, and then you just take your scissors and you cut it, make a cut in it. So let's set this aside. What you're going to do is squeeze the bag out right onto the board, and we're going to do just enough to be able to do each of the palm branches, just to add a little texture in there. Right, so I've got the knife, and I'm just going to you want to try not to lose the outline of the branch. So just smooth it around a little bit with the knife, and then you can either use your brush or your finger to kind of smooth it around more. That'll make it a little easier. Alright, so I'm actually going to use my finger to move this around. This is just plaster, so it's not toxic. You could use your paintbrush to do this also if you don't want to put your finger in it. Oh, don't forget a paper towel too. You wanna get a paper towel also. Sorry. Okay. All right. So once you have that on there, kind of wipe off the plaster off your knife. I'm going to use the knife and just kind of kind of pull the direction of each of the branches down. So just to make a little texture, pulling towards the end of the branch. Okay, so now I'm going to use the stick end of the brush, and I'm going to make the center line. You don't want to pull hard, just real lightly skim across, because you don't really want to go all the way down to the board, but just very lightly, just like that. Kind of put that center branch back in. Okay, so the next step is we're going to paint the tree trunk brown. So you take the cover off of your brush and you put it in your water to release the sizing, and then you gently dry the brush. Make sure that you don't bang the tip like this, because you can see what a nice point that brush has, so you want to be careful with it. Okay, so we're going to open the brown paint, and sometimes you have to make sure that these are stirred, so you want to take your brush, if it looks like it's got a little liquid on the top, just kind of stir it up a little bit. So, and then you wipe some of the color back off so you don't have a lot on your brush. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the trunk brown. I'm going to slightly overlap the aqua line. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I have all that brown washed out of my brush, and go ahead and dry it again. I'm going to really wash that. Make sure you get that out, because we're switching to yellow. So, alright, so we're going to do light yellow up above the branches here, here, and here, and then regular yellow at the bottom. Make sure you don't have any water in your brush. This is nice and thick paint, so you should get one really good coat on there, ought to do it. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush and switch to the darker yellow. It's got a little bit of separation. I'm going to mix it. And fill in the bottom. I'm going to Take it all the way to the water line right here and stop. Slightly overlapping the aqua line again. I do want you to notice that some of the wood particles are showing through a little bit, and I think that looks good. So you'll notice on the original you can see some of the dark coming through, and I think that really adds a lot of texture to it. So I just wanted to point that out. Alright, so my next step, I'm going to start working on the water. And I'm going to use this dark aqua, stir the paint, and I'm going to start at the horizon line. So right here, you want to be sure not to go over the boat. Okay, so once you have that done about halfway, you're going to open your white and I'll get my plate and put a little of that dark aqua on there on the plate, and then I'm going to touch my white and just kind of make a little lighter color. So now we have a light aqua. And we're going to finish the rest of the water with this color. And I'm going to show you how to do the shading on this. Okay, so as you can see, you don't want that stripe there. So let me show you how to fix that. You take your brush and you just dry off the paint. Okay? You're not washing your brush, you're just drying your brush. And then you take your dry brush and you just kind of tickle between the two lines. You just kind of blend your brush back and forth. Feathering, that's another word we could use. Just kind of feather that line. You see how that line just disappears? Okay, so that looks pretty good. Okay, all right. Okay, so I went ahead and got clean water so that I can do my next step. So I'm going to open the orange. We're on step number 5, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to thin this color a little bit. We're going to add a little water to it. So put some on the plate, blend it in so that it's nice and thin. And so we're going to do a nice wash down here, kind of give it a sunset look. So making sure that color is plenty thin, because you want to be able to see through, you know, the yellow. You should be able to see the yellow through a little bit. Alright, so again, we have this line up here, so you can do the same thing. You just take your brush, wipe it off, okay, and you're just going to feather that line. Alright, So if that line were to dry before you got that done, you would take it, just, there's not a lot of this left, but there's a little bit, and you could just kind of add a little bit of that on top of that line. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little orange while I'm doing that up around the tree trunk, or around the palm branches. Notice I'm only doing at the bottom of each branch and on the left side of the trunk. Okay, so for this next part, this is really fun. I'm going to open the clay. This is the clay. And alright, so you're going to take this and separate it into 2 equal parts. And we'll put one of them down. To make a ball out of this, you're going to take it and just take both hands and roll it. You can roll it that way, or you could roll it on the desktop like that. Little circular motion. So there you go, you got a nice ball. Now I feel like that's a little big, so I'm going to pull a little bit of that off the back, and then when we put that on, we're gonna put glue underneath it. So I'm just going to sit it there, because you want to make sure they're both the same size. You don't want one of them small and one big. So I want to make that one a little bit smaller. Okay, so let me take the glue. You take and you press down the corner and clip it just like you did the plaster, and you squeeze it onto where the coconuts go. Oh, you want to save some glue at the end for your piece of paper, your happy place. Alright, so I'm going to put the coconuts on. And then once I get them in place, I'm just going to kind of press them down a little so they're not sticking up so high. Okay, alright, that looks awesome. Okay, so I washed my brush. I'm going to go ahead and open my white, and I'm going to do the sailboat. And so that it's not just white, I'm going to add a little bit of aqua to it. So it's pretty light aqua though, so mostly white. So I'm just going to make sure you stay on the tip of your brush. See how I'm not pressing hard? I'm keeping my hand up and just holding it really close at the end. So by not pressing hard, I'm able to stay on the tip of the brush and not cover my aqua line. If you accidentally go over your line, you can just wipe it back off with your paper towel before it dries. I decided to use white for the bottom of the boat. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make this little reflection in the water. It's kind of like a upside down boat, so it's an upside down triangle. So you're just thinning your white. So again, on your plate, you put some white with just a touch of water. And we're going to start by making the wide part of the triangle first. I'm going to add a little more water so it's not so bright. And just going back and forth, you're making an upside down triangle. So what I'm going to do is get some of the paint off the brush, and I'm going to soften that a little because it's a little bit stark. So just going to pull out this way, make a few lines, and now I'm going to go through that with water. You see how that softened it out? I just did one, I did one line up here and one line here with water to soften it, and then I'm going to do one at the bottom. So that makes it look more realistic. So I'm going to do some waves. I still have very thin color, and I'm staying on the tip of the brush. So I think I'll do a little bit of that in the front here, just kind of wiggling it back and forth where it sort of looks like the little wave breaking up at the front. Alright, so I turned the instructions over, and the next thing I am doing is painting brown again. I'm going to paint the coconuts. Okay, I know I really want to paint the leaves right now, but what we're doing is we're letting them dry, and so I always wait till the very last thing before we paint those. So you just go ahead and take your plaster, and let's add more sand or plaster to the bottom to create the sand. Use my knife, spread it around. Okay, so now you take your paper towel and you bounce it. This is really kind of too much sand, so I think I'm just going to sprinkle a little. If you wanted to dump it out on your plate first, you could wipe off your paint and then dump the shells there so that you could look through them if you would rather do it that way. This makes me want to go to the beach. This is real Pensacola beach sand, by the way. We have beautiful white sand here. It looks like sugar. It's beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to use the copper now. I'm going to add some to the coconuts. You can just kind of put it on the top. You don't have to put it on the whole coconut. It's supposed to be more of a highlight. And then we're going to do it on just this side of the tree. So we can slightly overlap that orange use the same shading technique that I showed you already. So you put the copper on, and then you could wash off your brush a little, and then you're going to make that line disappear. I think this one it's helpful to have a little water on the brush as you go. All right, that looks great. Okay, so for my last step, I'm going to put my happy place sign on, and squirt the glue out. I think I'm just going to use my finger and move that around. Make sure that your area is larger than your piece of paper. And that way you'll be sure that your edges don't get where they don't stick. All right, and I believe we're finished. That is a great picture. So here's your hanger, and I hope you enjoyed this.